Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, La Brico Lewis. Several of you asked for a demonstration of how I use a French curve in drafting millinery patterns. So this is that video. I'll even show you how I use another tool, the flexible curve. You can decide which one looks like it would work better for you. I love making sewn fabric and buckram construction hats. I like drafting the patterns for those from scratch, or taking a pattern from a paper mock-up I've created and truing it up with drafting tools. The first tool I'm going to demonstrate how to use is the French curve, seen here in blue plastic at the center. You may also have seen this version above it, the variform curve. Let's use this 1920s catalog image of a hat shape as a reference to work from. I notice that this brim is much wider on the sides than it is at the front and back, and it's probably narrowest at the center back. When drafting a hat pattern, I start with a head-size oval template, such as this one. I'll be using a Sharpie to make my marks in this video, so that you'll be able to see them clearly, but I would ordinarily use a pencil. Mark the front, back, and the center of each side so that you can track that positioning and match up the pattern when you sew it together using those notches as guides. You might be able to get away without them on a simplistic symmetrical pattern, but the more complex the shape, the more difficult it will be if you don't have those marks. In theatrical millinery, you may know from a first fitting how wide you want your brim to be at center front, center back, and extending at the sides. Or you might know these measurements from making a mock-up out of paper or cardstock. Now it's time to use my French curve. I'm going to line up one side of it with the mark at the center back of my hat brim, and I'm going to trace just a section of the curve leading towards the hash mark at the side. Then I'm going to adjust the curve to complete that arc. It requires a little bit of finesse. Now I'll repeat that process to complete the arc for the front quadrant of this side of the brim. When I consider this shape now, I'd like to finesse some of the arcs to be a little less like a potato chip and a little bit more graceful. So I'm using my French curve to block off parts of the shape that seem too bulbous, and I'm refining that curve to be more sleek. Now I'll cut out my brim pattern. Since the shape of this hat brim is symmetrical from left to right and only asymmetrical front to back, I can fold it down the axis from center front to center back and cut it on the double. Now I will unfold and smooth out my brim pattern piece and compare this shape to that of the research image of my 1920s sun hat. If you want to bypass the kind of finessing that a French curve requires, a flexible curve might be a helpful tool for you to try. Most of them have both imperial and metric measurements and can be easily manipulated into the shapes that you require. I start again with my head size oval and the brim distance marked at front and back. Now I'll use my flexible curve to connect those two markings in a nice even curve. I'm tracing it out, and when I get to the end, my curve moves a little, so I true it up and make sure I have a nice shape. Now I can fold this in half and cut out this brim pattern just like I did the previous one. And let's compare the two. Which shape would you use to create this 1920s sun hat?